Real men provide without complaining, Dad said, unaware I'd given the family $200,000. I calmly placed cash for just my meal and walked out. Their shocked faces were priceless. I have always been the family checkbook. It wasn't a role I asked for, but somehow over the years, it became my designated position. My father's disappointment in me started early. I wasn't into sports, preferred books over hunting, and chose a career in software development instead of taking over his construction business. But ironically, I'm the one who ended up financially supporting most of the family. Last night was the breaking point. We were at our monthly family dinner at an upscale steakhouse. My parents, my older brother and his wife, my younger sister, and me. These dinners had become a tradition over the past 3 years, ever since I landed a senior position at my company. And as usual, everyone ordered the most expensive items on the menu without a second thought about who would be paying. The conversation had turned to my brother's latest business venture, his fourth failed attempt at entrepreneurship in 5 years. My father was praising his ambition and risk-taking spirit, while my mother nodded along enthusiastically. My sister chimed in about how she wished she had his courage. I sat quietly, picking at my food, knowing I'd be getting a call from my brother in a few weeks asking for another loan to cover his mortgage. Just like I knew my sister would be asking for help with her credit card debt again soon. Just like I knew my parents' recent kitchen renovation that they absolutely deserved had been mostly funded by my gift to them. Then my father looked at me and said, "You could learn something from your brother. He's out there taking chances, building something. What are you building besides computer programs nobody understands?" I shrugged. "A retirement fund, for one thing." The table went quiet. My father's face reddened. "You don't even act like a real man," my dad scoffed, waving his fork at me. "Sitting behind a desk all day, counting pennies. A real man provides for his family without complaining." Something inside me snapped. 3 years of monthly dinners at $800 plus each. 5 figures in loans that were never repaid. Countless guilt trips about how I should be doing more, giving more, being more. "You're absolutely right," I said calmly, placing my napkin on the table. "Which is why I'm done footing the bill for everyone at this table." I stood up, pulled out my wallet, and placed enough cash to cover just my meal and tip. "I'm not a real man by your definition, so I shouldn't be expected to act like one. Enjoy the rest of your dinner." Then I walked out, leaving my entire family behind, their mouths hanging open. My phone started blowing up before I even reached my car. I turned it off and drove home in silence, feeling lighter than I had in years. When I finally turned my phone back on the next morning, I had 27 missed calls and 43 text messages. My mother was heartbroken at my outburst. My sister called me selfish. My brother sent a single text. "Not cool, bro." My father's message was the most telling. "We need to talk about your responsibilities to this family." I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I made coffee and sat on my balcony, watching the sunrise and thinking about how I'd ended up in this position. After college, while my siblings were finding themselves, I had buckled down and built a career. When my father's business hit rough patches, I helped out. When my brother's first business failed, I covered his rent. When my sister needed a car, I co-signed. Small things at first, but they snowballed. By the time I got my promotion 3 years ago, it was just expected that I would pick up the tab for everything. Family vacations, holiday gifts, dinners, emergency home repairs, medical bills not covered by insurance. All while being told I wasn't ambitious enough, wasn't adventurous enough, wasn't man enough. My phone rang again. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. An hour later, there was a pounding on my door. I opened it to find my father standing there, face still red with anger. "What the hell was that about?" he demanded, pushing past me into my apartment. "I think I made myself clear," I said, closing the door. "I'm done being the family ATM. Is that what you think? That we see you as an ATM?" He paced my living room. "We're family. Family takes care of each other." "Yes, they do. But it's been one way for too long." "So this is about money? You're going to throw away your family over a few dollars?" I laughed. "A few dollars? Dad, do you have any idea how much I've given this family in the last 5 years? Over $200,000. And that doesn't include the monthly dinners, the holidays, the gifts." He stopped pacing. "That's impossible." I walked to my office and returned with a spreadsheet I'd been keeping. Every loan, every gift, every dinner, meticulously documented. "I'm not throwing away my family," I said, handing him the papers. "I'm just not going to be financially abused by them anymore." He glanced at the spreadsheet, then tossed it aside. "This is what's wrong with you. You keep score. Family doesn't keep score." "No, family doesn't take advantage of each other either." We argued for another hour. He called me ungrateful, selfish, cold. He brought up everything he and my mother had sacrificed for me growing up. He reminded me that my brother had always looked out for me when we were kids. He pointed out how my sister always defended me. Finally, he delivered his ultimatum. Either you apologize to everyone and get back to being part of this family properly, or you can consider yourself cut off. I couldn't help but laugh. Cut off from what exactly? What are you providing me that I would be cut off from? He left without answering, slamming the door so hard my neighbors probably felt it. The next week was surprisingly peaceful. I threw myself into work, went to the gym more, and started reading a novel I'd been putting off. No family drama, no emergency calls for money, no guilt trips. Then my sister showed up at my office. "We need to talk," she said, sitting across from my desk uninvited. About how you're tearing this family apart." She looked around my office, taking in the view from the 27th floor. "Must be nice up here in your tower, looking down on all of us." "I'm not looking down on anyone. I'm just not looking after everyone's finances anymore." She sighed dramatically. "This isn't about money. It's about respect. Dad has done everything for us, and you embarrassed him in public. After he insulted me in public. He was just being Dad. You know how he is. And that was the problem. I didn't know how he was. How they all were. And I'd enabled it for years. What do you want?" I asked. "The family dinner is tomorrow night. Dad expects you to be there with an apology." "I won't be there." Her eyes narrowed. "Then I guess you're not part of this family anymore." After she left, I sat staring out my window for a long time. Was I really willing to lose my family over this? But then I realized, what kind of family had they been to me? 2 weeks passed. No contact from anyone. I kept expecting to feel guilty or lonely, but mostly I felt relieved. My bank account was healthier. My stress levels were lower. I started dating again, something I'd put off because family emergencies always seemed to interrupt. Then my brother called. "Hey," he said, as if nothing had happened. "I need a favor." Of course he did. "What kind of favor?" "I'm a little short on the mortgage this month. Just need to borrow $5,000. I'll pay you back when this new deal comes through. Just like the last deal. And the one before that." "No," I said simply. Silence. "Then, what do you mean, no?" "I mean, no. I'm not lending you money. Is this still about that dinner?" "Come on, man. Dad says stuff like that all the time. You know he doesn't mean it. This isn't about Dad. It's about boundaries. I'm not your bank anymore." He got angry then, calling me names, bringing up times he'd been there for me, and finally threatening to tell our parents I was abandoning the family in their time of need. "Go ahead," I said, and hung up. An hour later, my mother called, crying about how I was breaking her heart by refusing to help my brother, who was going through a rough patch. I stayed firm. It wasn't easy listening to her cry, but I reminded myself of all the times I'd given in before and where that had gotten me. A month after the dinner incident, I received a formal invitation to my parents' 40th anniversary party. The invitation included a handwritten note from my mother. "Please come. Family should be together for important moments." I considered it. Maybe this was an olive branch. Maybe they were ready to respect my boundaries. I RSVP'd yes and bought them a nice, but not extravagant gift, a framed photo of them from their wedding day that I'd had professionally restored. The party was at their house. When I arrived, everyone was already there, including extended family I rarely saw. My mother hugged me tightly, whispering, "I'm so glad you came." My father nodded stiffly but didn't speak to me. For the first hour, things were civil. I caught up with cousins, avoided my siblings, and kept to myself. Then came the toasts. My brother went first, raising his glass to the best parents anyone could ask for, who had always supported all their children, no matter what. He looked directly at me during that last part. My sister followed, praising our parents' generosity and talking about how they had taught her the importance of family loyalty. Then my father stood up. He thanked everyone for coming, spoke about his love for my mother, and then said, "Family is everything. A man takes care of his family, no matter what. That's what I've always believed and what I've tried to teach my children." More pointed looks my way. When it was my turn to speak, I simply raised my glass and said, "To 40 years of marriage. Congratulations." After the toasts, my father cornered me in the kitchen. "That's all you have to say? After everything we've done for you? What would you like me to say? How about an apology for abandoning your family? Your brother almost lost his house because of you. Did he? Or did he find another way to pay his mortgage without my money?" My father's face darkened. He had to borrow from your uncle, had to swallow his pride and ask for help. Good. That's growth. You think this is funny? You think it's a joke that your family has to scramble because you decided to be selfish? I set my drink down. I think it's sad that you see me setting healthy boundaries as selfishness. I think it's sad that you value me only for my wallet. And I think it's really sad that you invited me here just to try to guilt me back into my role as the family piggy bank. That's not. It is. And I'm done. I left without saying goodbye to anyone else. Update. 3 months later. It's been 3 months since the anniversary party, and 6 months since the dinner where I walked out. A lot has changed. My brother did not, in fact, lose his house. Apparently, when faced with actual consequences, he found a second job. My sister, cut off from my financial support, miraculously discovered budgeting. My parents, after weeks of silent treatment, have started reaching out, cautiously, without financial requests. Last week, my father called and asked if we could meet for coffee, just the two of us. I agreed, with some trepidation. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop halfway between our homes. He looked older, more tired than I remembered. "I've been doing some thinking," he said after we'd gotten our drinks. "About what you said. About using you as an ATM." I waited, not making it easier for him. "Your mother found your spreadsheet. The one with all the money you've given us over the years." He stared into his coffee. "I had no idea it was that much." "You never asked." He nodded slowly. "I didn't want to know. It was easier to think of you as just doing your duty. To think of it as not that much." We sat in silence for a while. "I'm not good at saying I'm wrong," he finally said. "Never have been. But I was wrong about you. About a lot of things." It wasn't quite an apology, but from my father, it was monumental. "I don't need the money back," I said. "I just need the expectations to change." He nodded again. "No more handouts. We all need to stand on our own feet. Even your brother is starting to figure that out." We talked for 2 hours that day. Really talked, maybe for the first time in our adult lives. About his disappointment that I didn't follow in his footsteps. About my resentment at always being measured against an impossible standard of manhood. About how money had become a substitute for actual emotional connection in our family. It wasn't a perfect conversation. Old habits die hard, and he still made comments that set my teeth on edge. But it was a start. We've had coffee twice more since then. Small steps. My mother calls weekly now, and our conversations are no longer centered around who in the family needs what. My sister sent me a card on my birthday with a gift card to my favorite bookstore, the first gift she's given me in years. My brother is still keeping his distance. That's okay. Some relationships may never be repaired, and I'm making peace with that. The family dinners haven't resumed, and I'm not sure they ever will, at least not in their previous form. But last Sunday, my mother invited me over for a home-cooked meal, just the three of us. When I tried to bring wine, she refused to let me contribute anything. "You're our guest this time," she said. And when the check came at the coffee shop yesterday, my father reached for it before I could. "My turn," he said simply. "It's a small thing, but in my family, it feels like a revolution."